Hello, and welcome to the Aligned Entrepreneur. I'm so excited to be the first podcast here today. I'm Rashawn Hargrave, the owner of Vibe Cowork, and I'm here with my co-host, Stephanie Armstrong.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I am the CEO and co-founder of Moxie Creative Studios, and also known as the Brand Alchemist.
Awesome. And today our focus is going to be sales and marketing in an aligned way. And so we do have some entrepreneurs here today. And so all entrepreneurs have to sell, but they didn't get into business to sell. And so raise your hand if you are an entrepreneur who loves cold calling. Oh, we actually have two more hands than I expected. And so raise your hand if you love being rejected on cold calls. Oh, nobody raised their hand. And so today we're going to be talking about sales and marketing as entrepreneurs because I believe two things, and they're going to be through lines today, is that if you don't sell, you don't have a business. And selling is a learned skill. So it's not like you're just born a sales leader. It's something that you can learn. And I have a sales prospecting course for entrepreneurs. And we're going to be talking through 3 of the modules that I go through in my course, as well as how they combine with marketing. I know that you recently realigned your business. So can you talk about aligning your business with your beliefs?
Yeah, I have had my business for 10 years and I've been in the space for 15. And I always share when I began, it was work. And I looked at it as a very transactional thing. As time went on and I had a lot of really incredible different types of experiences, I got to a point where I started to reflect on the impact that I had made. And the truth was, although I hate to admit this, but I believe in vulnerability. The truth was I wasn't proud of every person and every project that I supported. Not because in the beginning it was very evident that this was someone or something that I shouldn't be involved in. But of course, as things unfolded and when I really sat with that, the work that I do in branding and marketing, it gives people power and it gives people influence and it gives people wealth. And I wanted to be much more mindful about how I express that gift and with who and on what. And when I really sat with that, and truth be told, I took a 7-day sabbatical to really meditate on this and sit with this and see how it resonated and what came up. And for me, what came up was that I really wanted to support women, that I was watching women rise into leadership roles in rates that we have never seen before, literally in all of humanity. And they're following this blueprint for leadership that is masculine because historically we have only had masculine leaders. And what's happening is it's leading to burnout and it's leading to stress and overwhelm and a lack of alignment that is permeating through everything that they do. And that really spurred, obviously, this fire inside me to realign my business with my values and what I really wanted my purpose to be.
And what I love is so beautiful about your story, and I think we can all take something from that, is that you didn't start your business and know everything. And so I think that pivoting and realigning is such an important part of the entrepreneurship journey. Yeah. And I also love that you talked about taking a sabbatical and meditating, because the first part of the sales course is talking all about prep. And so one part of prep is mindset. And so when you first go to cold call, cold pitch, talk to people about your stuff, there's a lot of things that can come up in your brain. Our brain is meant to keep us safe and small. And so going outside of our comfort zone, like selling, can trigger a lot of fear, anxiety, and just funny stuff that comes up in our brain. So like when I go to cold call, it'd be like, well, I'm going to bother them. Oh, they're going to find me annoying. They're going to say no, so why even bother? And so it's all of the little conversations that start to happen in your brain when you go do something uncomfortable like selling.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious for you, I'm sure that you have that when you go to post or your clients go through that. And so What are some things that you do or help your clients with to kind of reverse those conversations?
Well, I think the first thing to recognize is when we think about, this fear of rejection. Everyone has a fear of rejection. I don't care how successful you are. I don't care how beautiful you are. Everyone has a fear of rejection. That is completely normal and natural. When we say things to ourselves like, oh, I'm bothering them, you started a business because you believed that you had something that was of value to someone, or you wouldn't have started a business, right? So the first thing is, most of the time, those things are just flat out untrue. Those stories that we're telling ourselves are just flat out untrue. Secondly, they're really indicators of self-doubt and self-sabotage. And when we look at that, like what is coming up, the underlying belief or lack of belief is, what is the value that I'm bringing? So for me, I don't sell anything. I serve and I solve. That's what I do. I serve people and I solve problems. And when you approach it with that mentality, I'm not selling you anything. In fact, I will unsell you really quick if I feel like we're not in alignment or this really isn't going to be a good fit. But when we come at it from a lens of, how can I serve this person? How can I solve a problem? That should start to bring up other questions in our mind, like, well, what is the problem that my consumer is facing? What do they need solved? How can I serve them? How do they need to be served? And when you approach it, how can I help you? How can I help you achieve your goals? How can I help you reduce your pain? How can I help you overcome your fears? That is a very normal and natural and welcomed conversation.
Yeah. And so for me, it's so funny. I mean, again, we're so aligned, because my favorite saying to use when I start to get in my own head when it comes to selling is, selling is a commitment to my calling. And so I feel very called to help women create businesses, create an income and an impact. And the way I do that is to go out and serve my community and find the people who need what I have to offer. And you have to be visible to do that. You have to be uncomfortable, but it's a commitment to my calling. So that is the other thing that's wonderful that comes out of that, is thinking about the ripple effect. Yeah. And so if I can go out and make an impact on these women-owned businesses, and then they get to go and create more money, create more of an impact, then just the ripple effect continues. And it's just a really, really beautiful thing. So do you have any like rituals or routines that you like to use when it comes to getting in the right headspace to go out and put yourself out there?
Yeah, it's definitely a process. So for me, when I'm starting with, how can I serve? Who do I serve? What problem can I solve? It's really, for me, first about really understanding who your ideal consumer is. So when I got clear about like, okay, I've always been really passionate about women's issues and female empowerment. I've always been a girl's girl, hardcore, 10 toes down. How can I leverage this passion that I have for like really uplifting women, and who are those women that really need to be uplifted? The truth is, there's women in all kinds of industries, but the types of problems I solve as a branding expert and a marketing expert is about increasing that visibility, right? Amplifying their voice, making sure their online presence actually represents the power and the prestige and the respect that they deserve. So when I think about that, and I really started to go through that in a little bit more detail, what occurred to me was that women, and I have been this woman, in male-dominated industries are definitely feeling this pain point much more than a woman who, for example, works in the beauty industry, which is a lot of women, right? So I've been in all kinds of spaces. And in those spaces, it's not to say that there aren't challenges, but the challenges are very different. When you are a woman who works in a male-dominated space, and I have been that woman for 15 years, there are very specific challenges that present. And I know exactly what those challenges are because I have lived them over and over again. So I know what the solutions are. So as I think about this process, it's like, A, we need to get really clear on who we're serving and the problem that we're solving, way deeper than the demographics. I came from advertising with ABC, and I remember our demographic categories are like women 25 to 54. Like, it's so broad. What does that mean? So many different kinds of women fit in that category. But when I'm like, no, my target demographic is a woman who's typically between the ages of 35 and 65 now, because we're rocking into some later years nowadays. They're women who they are spiritual. You know, they honor their spirituality in their work. They're women who want to make a positive impact. You know, when I started to look at these things, it helped me identify what are the spaces I need to be in, right? What are the conversations that I need to be cultivating? What content can I create that's actually going to be valuable for the woman who's working in the construction industry and she's sitting at a table of 15 men and her voice cannot get heard? How does she interrupt in a way that's still respected, gets the respect that she also rightly deserves, and maintain her femininity? So I can get extremely granular about any scenario that she might be in because I understand her at a very deep level. Mm-hmm. So when we go through this process of really understanding who our consumer is, the challenges that they're facing, and then we align our solution with that problem, it just creates a very natural and authentic, relationship where, again, it's not so much about selling, but about serving and solving.
Yeah. And so many entrepreneurs that I work with, and I feel like it's similar to you, we are serving a previous version of ourselves.
Yes, girl.
And that can make the selling process so much easier when you think about, like, what would I have wanted if I could go back and talk to a previous version of myself, how would I have wanted to be sold to? Where would I have wanted to show up? What would I have wanted to hear when I was in that space? And so the next module in my sales course is about prospecting. So it's out and doing the actual work. And so there are 3 P's that I find that stop us in our tracks when it comes to prospecting. Procrastination. I am not someone who likes doing dishes or laundry or that sort of stuff, but they seem really exciting when I have to cold call because it's like I would rather do so many other things. And so the things that come up are like, oh, maybe I'll go check my email. Oh, didn't I get that text? I really need to think about what I want to do for dinner tonight. And so procrastination is something that always comes up when it comes to prospecting. The second one is perfectionism. If I just learn more about this topic, if I just find that exact ideal client, then I can go and do it. When this Instagram caption is perfect, then I'll send it out. And it's just, again, a way for our brain to keep us small and not putting ourselves out there. And the last P is paralysis by analysis. You know, what is the perfect time to call? What is the perfect time to post? What is the perfect person at that company that I want to go and reach out to? And why I kind of talk through this is because, A, I have said all of those things, and every single sales book, sales podcast, sales talk that I have been to, everybody falls into this. So anybody that you look up to as a successful entrepreneur has said all of these things to ourselves. And so, again, it's part of walking through this process is to alert ourselves when those conversations start to come up and then say, oh, I know what this is. This is me keeping myself small. This is the fear manifesting in my brain. And how can we get out of that? And so, as someone who, I was making about 250 cold calls a week when I was in my sales role for a software company. And so even with that, I stumbled over my words. I sent typos in emails. I, left voicemails for the wrong person. So I have done all of these things, but you have to keep going because action breeds clarity. And the only way to get to where you want to be is to keep going. And so what are your thoughts on some ways that from a marketing perspective, clients kind of like find themselves stuck or not putting themselves out there.
Yeah. Well, I think, when we begin this process, it can be extremely overwhelming, right? There's a lot to do. Who are we contacting? What are we saying? How are we saying it? What days are we sending it, right? And there's a lot of amazing technology tools that we have available to us today to really help expedite and increase the efficiency and the effectiveness of the prospecting process. However, one of the things that I'm really big on today is, as this technology is exploding with automation and artificial intelligence, which is all incredible, and I leverage all of it myself. However, we have to make sure that we keep the humanity in it. We cannot have, at Moxie, we talk about soul and strategy. We can't have so much strategy that we lose our soul, because what's happening today, and I don't have all the information, I'm putting a thesis together on this right now, but what I'm observing is people who are not necessarily spiritual, or people who would have found energy conversation is very woo-woo, right? Now they're starting to say things like, oh, that just doesn't feel right, or that's not really sitting with me, or I don't know, something about that person just feels off. There's this intuition that's really building in people in ways I have not had conversations, and I've been in business for 15 years. So I've had a lot of conversations, thousands and thousands and thousands, and over the last few years particularly, there's a huge increase in people who are really looking for that energetic alignment, whether they can articulate it or not. So as we move into this phase, it's really critical that we don't abuse the technology to the point that we lose our humanity, that we're able to really resonate with people in a very authentic way, because they're feeling it and they're sensing it. And as we build relationships, that's the type of impression and the type of impact and engagement we want to have with our prospects anyway.
And as I said before, like, I was making about 250 cold calls a week, which I don't currently do, because I wanted to stab my eyes out a lot of time there. But that being said, like, when I first started that process, I was making about 8 cold calls a day, and it would take me all day because I was overthinking. I was looking for the perfect person, the perfect time. And as I learned how to sell, how to prospect, how to find those clients, I could make about 25 cold calls in an hour. And so if I'm doing 250 a week, that's about 10 hours a week that I needed to do that. And while that could seem a lot, especially if you're not doing any of that right now, the freedom that I got back for those other 30 hours to do some of that work, and to, everybody hates when they get that email. Like, I get it almost every day of like, dear High Vibe Cowork. I'm like, you couldn't even find out my first name? Right. Like, come on. And so taking some time, you have all of that time to do some of that research and to find a client that is like perfect for you. But that being said, like, I feel this is probably true for you. There have been clients that you've worked with that were not perfect, but you didn't know that until after. And it takes a while to figure out what that ideal client really truly is, because there are a lot of people that on paper or what you see online, you're like, this is going to be a perfect match, or, I think this is how I want to build my business. I am of the belief that you should build your business based on how you want to live your life, not live your life based on what your business looks like. But it takes a lot of trial and error, and you're not going to get it perfect on the first try. And it's the same thing with prospecting. You're going to have a client sign and then get in and they're like not respecting their boundaries. They don't pay on time. They have different beliefs. Just some things that you thought could potentially be aligned are not. And so if you run into that, that doesn't mean that like you're wrong, you're bad at doing this. It's just part of the journey.
Clarity and contrast. Right? That was one of the most powerful things I ever heard that helped me stop beating myself up, right? When those moments came where I was like, I thought this was going to be way different. Instead of being like, well, what did I miss? Like, what did I do wrong? Yeah. Like, what could I do better in the future? It was like, thank you, contrast. Thank you for showing me that this is not what I want to deal with. So I am going to professionally just wrap this up, right? And we're going to move on to something a little bit more aligned.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a high school volleyball coach, and I was working with my athletes on this week about their mistakes are nothing more than data. It's just data. Like, The more data you have, the more you're growing, and you wouldn't want to be in the same place that you were 5 years ago. And
Right.
so you have to take that data and use it to grow your business, to find different prospects, to figure out who is actually going to be the one that lights you up when you work together and you get excited when they call you and they have wins and you're cheering for them as well. So the last part of the module is pursue. And so a lot of times, like, you prospect and you make those cold calls and you actually like take the leap and you're like, oh, I did it. But every single person here has left stuff in their cart. You know, we are just inundated with ads and with information and with text messages and emails. And so even if like you find something that is the perfect fit, clicking buy doesn't always happen right away. And so you have to make sure that you are top of mind for your prospects. And so the nugget from here that I wanted to leave everybody with for this part of the module is the 80-20 rule, which is the Pareto principle. He found that 20% of your work leads to 80% of your results.
I believe it.
The exciting part about that is once you figure out what that 20% is, your life just got so much easier.
Yes.
The hard work is figuring out what that 20% is. So again, that is data. You have to go out and actually do the work to figure out what that 20% is. And so when it comes to marketing, how do you keep up with the frantic pace of like following up with people, being top of mind to use automations? Like, how do you suggest people just kind of stay top of mind for their prospects?
Definitely encourage automation at this point in time. Again, always infusing the humanity. At Moxie, we talk a lot about soul and strategy. Like, we cannot get so strategic that we lose our soul because people just don't respond to it. You know, marketing has really changed with all these technologies now, as we've almost become more resistant to it. We kind of filter it out, right? So definitely leveraging things like automation and artificial intelligence and all the amazing tools that we have available to us without losing our soul. And then I'll tell you, the biggest driver for me has been content marketing. Right? So why is content marketing? And content marketing is far and away the best form of advertising today anyway. And the reason why is it's because we're sharing our thoughts, right? We're sharing our beliefs, our vision, how we approach things, our philosophies, our frameworks. So I am a big, big proponent, and I do this with all my personal branding clients. We're producing a lot of content, whether that's video content, articles, right, blogs, ebooks. I've got a client right now who's producing content for some national publications, so we're doing some guest blogging. I have another client who we're producing some national TV shows, right? So that's content. Even at a small level, though, and even I think too many people get really stuck on how many likes and comments they are. Please drop that in today's world. It's not a thing anymore. It's not a thing, because here's what's happening. 75% of first impressions with your business happen online. And if they don't like what they see online, they don't even call you. So your online presence has become literally the most important thing, because what's going to happen, and we all do it, you know what you do. You meet someone new, what's the first thing you do? You Google them, or you look them up on social media. And what the statistics are showing is if you're over 45, you tend to Google. If you're under 45, you tend to go to social media first. But that's going to be the first thing that they do. I don't care how many likes are on your video. I don't care how many comments are on your video. What I'm watching is the content. Who are you? What do you believe in? Are we aligned? I don't even care if it's polished. I don't care. I'm a marketer. Like, I know what goes into all of that. It's not easy to do. So I don't even expect it to be like super high quality. But what I'm looking for is, are you present? Are you active? Are you telling me about who you are and what you do and how it solves my problem and how it serves me? Is it a little bit engaging, right? Like, that's what I'm looking for. It's almost become our resume, essentially, our online presence. It's this digital footprint that we leave behind for other people to make those decisions. Is this someone that I want to work with? So I highly, highly, highly recommend having a presence on social media. You don't have to be a professional, but what you do have to be is visible.
Yeah, and it goes back to you're selling to a previous version of yourself.
Yeah.
And a previous version of yourself isn't perfect. It's not polished. It's not, nice and neat with a bow, but it's real.
Yeah.
So we are coming up on time. So thank you so much for this conversation. It was really, really wonderful. And if you do want to take my sales prospecting course, I am offering one freebie today, so you can go and enter that drawing at our table. But as I always end all of my podcasts, big dreams and small steps will transform your life.
Thank you.